Today we'll be reading Chapter 7 of Ripper, starting on page 27. Chapter 7. As the party wore on, everyone except Carver looked like they were having a great time. Seemingly howdy women risked getting dirt on their gowns to bring themselves closer to the children. The men scuffed the knees of their expensive tuxedos for a chat or a game. The only other person sticking to the sidelines was Finn. If Carver's jacket was too small, Finn's was ready to burst. He looked like a trained monkey, the kind that worked with organ grinders selling bags of roasted peanuts. But then his short, second-in-command bulldog trotted up to his mentor. Speaking excitedly, he was 12, but white as Finn. His flat face made him look like his namesake. His looks had put him on the outs with the others, until Finn took him under his wing, earning his lifelong loyalty. Carver couldn't hear what he was saying, but he was pointing to a tall, bearded man by the sandwiches. Nearly all the boys from Finn's gang were there, even Peter Bishop. A recent arrival, being part of Finn's gang made him feel more American. But he had to be goaded into breaking rules. As Finn listened to Bulldog, his look of misery faded. Curious, Carver slipped neater. "It's legit," Bulldog squeaked. There's Colonel George E. Waring, the man who designed the Central Park sewers, himself. He's looking for us young men to sweep garage in the summer and shovel snow in the winter. It pays real money, 50 cents a week. Guy like you'd probably be a captain or something. The red-haired bully's back straightened. "You think?" "A street dreamer, eh?" It was physical work, but Finn would like that. Even more, he'd love being his own man, free on the streets. With a sigh, Carver realized that even his tormentor had found a place in life. But no sooner did the husky youth take a sweep than Miss Petty appeared. "Phineas, there are some people here who'd like to meet you." At her side stood an impeccably dressed couple. The man was narrow as a piece of cardboard, pinch-faced and severe. The gown on his well-fed wife was so wide the hoop hem prevented anyone from getting within 3 feet of her. She raised a set of glasses with long silver handle and surveyed Finn, as if considering having him made into a winter coat. Miss Petty made the introductions. "This is Mr. Alexander Eccles, a district attorney, and his wife, Samantha. I've told them a lot about you, and they're interested in possibly adopting you," Finn said. His eyes were riveted on the colonel and his friends, half a room away. "Does he talk?" Miss Eccles said. "I'd rather he didn't, but he does have a handsome face." Realizing the woman wasn't joking, Miss Petty said, "He does talk. Isn't that true, Phineas?" "Yes," Finn said. Carver could feel him sweating. Miss Eccles said, "Do you have any handsome ones that don't?" "We only need one that looks good in photos." "No," Miss Petty said coolly, though. She clearly didn't like them. She took Finn's hand and drew him closer to the couple. They were rich, so of course she'd see that there was a good opportunity for one of her residents, so that was Finn's surprise. Across the room, Colonel Waring had a little pad of paper out. He was licking the tip of a pencil, ready to write down names. Bulldog shrugged a sheepish farewell at Finn and then rushed off to join the others. Once Miss Petty excused herself, the Exculsius spoke as if Finn weren't even there. "His arms look fat," Mr. Exculsius said with disapproval. "Perhaps it's the clothes," Mr. Exculsius said with a shrug, "but it will not make great press to have him along at charity events." "It seems like so much trouble," Miss Exculsius said. "Couldn't we just borrow one?" "I don't believe so," Mr. Exculsius said. "And the adoption itself would look very good, very charitable indeed." He leaned forward and addressed Finn loudly and slowly. "We would like to take you home with us. You will be fed, clothed, and educated. What do you say?" Carver could smell the wood burning in Finn's head. The muscular, red-haired boy used to barking out orders and being obeyed suddenly looked lost and sad. Embarrassed for him, Carver stepped away. He thought about Delia. She was right about making your own luck. If Carver cared at all about what kind of life he'd be leading, he'd marched up to Roosevelt and give it his best shot. He moved towards the punch bowl, looking down at his feet. Should he mention his letter or just talk about how much he wanted to be a detective? He was halfway there when he looked up. Roosevelt was gone. He scanned the room, snapping his head faster and faster. The man was nowhere to be seen. Delia was at the entrance, next to Anne Ribe and Miss Petty. Carver ran and yanked her aside. "Where's Roosevelt?" The smile fell from her face. "He left. You never did speak to him, did you? It was only a minute ago. Maybe you could still catch him." Carver dove for the door. On his way out, he nearly knocked over an oddly stooped, salt-and-pepper-haired man. The man growled something, but Carver ignored him. He jumped down the 3 steps and looked frantically up and down the street. Cool air hit the sweat around his neck. Horse-drawn hansoms and private carriages clopped and clicked along the cobblestones. Pedestrians strolled along, but none had Roosevelt's short stature or square shoulders. Carver had stood by for hours, feeling sorry for himself, and now his chance was lost. How could he find his father alone? For as long as he could remember, Carver felt as if something were missing. Not just his past, not just knowing who he was, but someone who could tell him, show him. A father, if not his own, then someone like him. Now where would he wind up? He turned back to the entrance and pulled so hard at his collar it tore. The air which swarmed over the top of his chest felt like winter. "Don't they teach manners in this place?" I said. "Watch where you're going, boy." Carver looked up. It was the gnomish older man, still in the doorway, scowling fiercely. "Are you deaf as well as stupid?" Carver twisted his head for a better look. He seemed the sort you wouldn't want to mess with. His beard and hair were unkempt as a squirrel's nest, but his eyes were practically shining with intelligence. His left hand, pressed against the door, looked terribly strong, but his right appeared damaged, mangled. It clutched the black stick of a silver wolf's head cane with 3 fingers, as if the thumb and index finger were useless. What was he? The old cape covering his hunched shoulders might have been formal once, but it was threadbare and wrinkled now. The rest of his clothes looked as if they hadn't been laundered in ages. If he weren't so sloppy, he looked as if he belonged in a funeral home, an undertaker. Carver was about to apologize, but the man yelled again. "I said, boy, are you deaf as well as stupid?" There was something about the nasal tenor that really grated aside, from which Carver didn't like being called boy or stupid. "Neither," Carver said. The man looked more curiously than offended. Still holding the door, he swayed his body closer. "Neither what, boy?" Carver held his ground. "I'm neither deaf nor stupid, and I hardly think I'm a boy any more." The stranger rolled his eyes. "Are you a farm hog? When addressing your superiors, whether you mean it or not, you always say sir. And when you nearly knocked someone over, whether you mean it or not, you apologize." "I do apologize, sir," Carver said. He hoped his tone communicated how little he meant it. But the man wasn't offended. A slight smile brought the edge of his lips into the same light as his. "That you are. You are one sorry boy. Where are you going in such a rush?" Once more Carver looked up and down the street. "Nowhere." The man cackled. "Just like the rest of the damn fools in the city, eh?" He stretched the cane out. It almost touched the tip of Carver's nose. "At least you know it. That's something, isn't it?" He put the cane down. "Are you Carver Young?" "What?" "I thought you weren't deaf. Are you Carver Young?" "Yes," Carver said. "And who are you, sir?" Saying nothing, the man hobbled inside, leaving Carver feeling very much like a stupid boy, not knowing what to say or do. If you want to hear Chapter 8 of Ripper, look for my next video.